operating budget for fiscal year July 1, 2011 to June 30th, 2012.
See, we have a proposed FD1. I call on the author for that motion. Sir.
Mr. Chairman, I further move that Bill 33 CD1 be amended to the proposed FD1 in part of the agenda set.
Thank you, sir. And a second, please. Second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Anderson, if you could please explain the FD1 for us, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. What the proposed FD1 in front of us does, Mr. Chairman, is it provides that no money shall be expended by the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transit for any purposes from the Transit Fund or Transit Improvement Bond Fund unless such monies are first appropriated by this Council. It further provides, Mr. Chairman, that monies from the Transit Improvement Bond Fund may be encumbered but shall not be expended until a full funding grant agreement is fully executed for the project between HART and the Federal Transit Authority. And further provides, Mr. Chairman, that the Council finds and declares that no officer or employee of the city shall expend or aid or participate in expending any sum for the HART or any other city agency in the absence of an appropriation approved by the City Council, and provides penalties for anyone who does so. So in short, Mr. Chairman, it shows that this Council is exercising our belief that we have authority over this particular matter, and it also puts an exclamation point on the fact that no funds shall be expended prior to a full funding grant agreement being executed.
Thank you, sir. Before I call on the vote to amend to an FD1, is there anyone here wishing to testify with respect to this matter of Bill 33? Please come forward and state your name for the record again.
Good afternoon, Chair and Council members. Natalie Iwasa for the record. I truly appreciate these amendments. I think they're very important to clarify what was the understanding when the charter, proposed charter amendment came before the public. And so this leaves little doubt as to what the understanding was and was the control back in the council where I believe it should be. I'd also like to just testify on the bill itself. And during recess, I just want to share a little story. I noticed a DAG's car driving, and I thought, why do we have a DAG's car driving? And there's no line item in the state budget that says DAG's car X $1,000. And the reason I bring that out is that these budgets are very summarized. And as a member of the public, I count on the council to take a look at all the details in the budget and to pull out those items that are truly not necessary at this time. And also to consider that with these lawsuits that we have pending now, what is the, first of all, this whole project is going to be delayed even more with these lawsuits. But what is the potential that this entire project may not happen? And, the cost, if such an event should happen because of the lawsuits, we need to be careful about what we put in as an investment, what funding we're putting forward before this whole issue is settled. So I just wanted to put that forth and ask the council to really look at the budget details. You have the staff to do that, whereas the public does not have those capabilities. And then one final note again on Bill 33 on the FICA tax budget chair. I would just like to ask that that particular line item be decreased. I think it's overstated, at least in my experience, with the cafeteria plan. Thank you.
Questions for Ms. Iwasa? Thanks, Natalie. I actually do have a list of persons wishing to testify. Jim Quimby? Jim, here?
Chair Garcia, on point of order.
Yes, sir.
Scott Foster, representing Hawaii Advocates for Consumer Rights. With all due respect, Chair Garcia, Can you tell us the status of the ethics ruling about your possible conflicts of interest relating to the Honolulu Transit project and your outside employment?
Right.
Specifically, should you be chairing the council while hearing bills 40, 33 CD1, 33 CDFD1, CR 153, or CR 155? And should you be participating in the discussion and the votes on these bills?
I've been told by council, I'm happy to answer that question, Scott. I've been told by council that I am required to vote up until such time that I am told that I am not able to do so. I'm required to do so. As to the status of the inquiry into the complaints and investigation that's happened, I just had a conversation with the executive director of the Ethics Commission. He told me they will take at least a month before they come to any resolution on that matter. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, is Mr. Quimby here? Mr. Quimby? Okay, George Fox? Okay. Scott, did you want to say something other than just asking the question?
Advocates for Consumer Rights is opposed to Bill 40. I understand the reasons for this bill and appreciate them, but at this point have no opinion.
Okay, Scott, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Fox is actually at the other microphone. Mr. Fox, if you could identify yourself for the record, sir.
As soon as I get this thing fixed, I will.
Okay, somebody.
My name is George Fox. I'm president of Advocates for Consumer Rights.
Okay.
And we're in opposition to Bill 33. And we wonder what the rush is to get this money committed and spent. Minneapolis-St. Paul just announced their railroad that's going to cost less than $1 billion and be paid 100% by the federal government. But they're not as smart as we are. They're not building elevated heavy rail like we are. The only heavy rail work going on in the United States right now is in Miami, where they're tearing it down because the salt air raised the maintenance costs so high they couldn't afford to maintain the thing. So they spend the money to take it down. Meanwhile, the genius is here. We're going to build one. We didn't learn anything from building the stadium. Go out and look at the big steel beams at the stadium. Most of them only have an inch left that hasn't been eaten up by that fine patina that coats the steel. That's called rust. It eats steel. This whole thing is idiotic. And why the rush? We let a contract out for almost $1 billion for cars. Every kid that built a model railroad knows the last thing you put on the tracks is the cars. What's the rush to commit and spend money? I don't understand it. The mayor held a phony groundbreaking the week before he held a fundraiser. $1,500 a plate. The average citizen can't afford that. It wasn't for us, it was for developers. And that's what this thing is all about. It's all built on lies. The whole thing. We talked about, we didn't look at any alternatives, but they said they would, they didn't. They called, MUFI called it light rail right up until they lost the election. I just don't understand. You people act like you don't pay taxes. The taxpayers are going to end up footing this whole bill, and we may not even end up with a railroad. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Questions for Mr. Fox? None? Scott, just to go back to your testimony, I think we heard that you were opposing Bill 40. This is Bill 33. So did you want to correct the record and say that you're opposing Bill 33? That's what the measure is before us right now.
I just want to get that point of order in before we moved on to the transportation bills. We oppose all of them.
Okay.
No opinion on this bill because we just started hearing.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks. Bob, is it Crone? C-R-O-N-E? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Hello, my name is Bob Crone. Good afternoon. I'm a resident of Kailua and a homeowner in Kailua. I'm speaking in regard to Bill 33, 34, and 40, so I apologize for any overlap in Bill 40. I'm concerned, although we've been assured time and again that the rail system will be built without the use of property taxes, that will be funded entirely by the 0.5% of the general excise tax and by federal funds. We're at this early stage looking at funding the rail with general obligation bonds, which deals with Bill 40, I believe. That is, we're looking at funding the rail from the general fund. The primary source of funds in the general fund is our property taxes. Therefore, at this early stage, we're already looking at funding the rail project with our property taxes. The funds from the 0.5% increase in general excise tax and funds from the from property taxes should not be commingled with the general fund. There should be a clear separation. There should not even be the appearance of a shell game between these funds. So please do not use property taxes to fund the rail project. The FTA has not yet given approval for the city to enter into the final design. Only after final design is completed can the city enter into the full funding grant agreement with the FTA. As experience has shown time and again, funds expended before full funding grant will not receive new starts matching funds. I know of 2 cases where this has happened. Only funds expended after a full funding grant agreement are eligible for new starts matching funds. Funds expended before that time forfeit their opportunity for federal matching funds. By expending funds at this time, we are jeopardizing the amount of new starts matching funds we receive. We're jeopardizing the $1.55 billion. Councilmember Anderson, as a Kailua resident and constituent, you have stated on several occasions that you do not support bonds for the rail project until federal funds have been received. Federal funds have not been received. So please do not support the issuance of general obligation bonds and funds from the general fund for the rail project at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to note, Councilmember Anderson's proposal does sort of rein it in there. So, yeah. Okay. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify with respect to Bill 33? Oh, I'm sorry.
One more question, Chair, just to state.
Oh, state.
In regards to his testimony, if I may.
Okay.
I would just like to clarify, Mr. Chairman, although I am on record as stating that I will not vote for any bond sale resolution prior to a full funding grant agreement, that none of the measures that are before us this afternoon amount to a bond sale resolution. That will come before us sometime next year. Just like to clarify.
Yeah. There's a 2-step process. Yeah. I'm sorry, sir. Please state your name for the record.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Tom Kaufman. I'm a resident of Kaneohe. I'm a member of the board of Hawaii Thousand Friends, which is an environmental advocacy group. We've been following all of these bills closely and attempting to understand what they are and how they relate to one another. The context is our opposition to the rail project as it is presently configured, and that is the elevated steel on steel $5.3 billion system. However, we are aware that there are very many crucial issues inside these bills for HART and for operating budget for HART and CIP budget for HART. And with regard to the bills, we are opposed to 33, opposed to 34, opposed to 40. We are very pleased to see the language in the floor draft, the F clause and G clause, monies from the transit fund, the transit bond fund shall not be expended until full funding agreement. No money shall be expended by the Honolulu Authority for rapid transit for any purpose of the transit fund or a transit improvement bond fund. This very much reflects the sentiment of people in Windward, Oahu, I believe, and I think we can project in many other parts of the island. As regard to HART, I believe this language preserves the proper role of the council. It preserves what was envisioned by the charter. And with regard to the rail project, I think it preserves a framework of more careful consideration and greater fiscal responsibility. And it is for those reasons that I applaud the sentiments that lie behind these amendments.
Thank you, sir. Questions for Mr. Kaufman? Not. Thank you, sir. Brief testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here wishing to testify with respect to Bill 33? Please come forward and state your name for the record.
I am Pearl Johnson, speaking for the League of Women Voters of Honolulu. Bill 33 authorizes using over $164 million of our property taxes, referred to as general fund in the bill, to pay for operating the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transit for just 1 year, ending June 30th, 2012. Why do you want to do this? The latest financial plan, issued just last month, says the GET surcharge and federal funds will pay for the whole thing. Why can't HART wait for GET money to be collected and available? Using our property taxes to pay for rail has never been part of the plan to build rail. Let me quote from the latest financial plan issued just last month. On page 1-7, table 1-3 shows sources of funds. Beginning cash balance, $298 million. Net GET surcharge revenues, $3.306 billion. FTA Section 5309 New Starts revenues, $1.55 billion. FTA Section 5307 formula funds used for the project, $248 million. By the way, that's our bus money. Interest income on cash balance, $6 million. And a mysterious entry transferring excess GET surcharge to ongoing capital, $91 million minus. The list totals $5.3 billion, which is what the next column says will be needed to build the system. So why do you want to use property taxes to pay for the system when the financial plan says that's not necessary? You'll probably answer that the money will be repaid by the GET to be collected in the future. But why take the chance that the GET won't be enough? What's the rush? Bill 33 shows that over $20 million is available from the Transit Fund for HART. Why isn't that enough to pay for 1 year's operation? And if it isn't, perhaps HART is spending money too fast. Bill 33 lists a few $1 million necessary to pay for utilities and so-called fringe benefits, but does not list salaries. Instead, there's an appropriation for over $164 million from the general fund to transit fund. I'm not an expert at reading laws. If salaries are shown in the bill, please tell me where. What is the $164 million going to be spent on? Why do you want to use our property taxes to pay for rail when the financial plan says it's not necessary? However, Bill 33 is not all bad. Items G and H of Section 5 of FD1 do reserve to the City Council the right to appropriate money before it's spent by HART. We need the transparency that affords. But I can't tell if the $164 million is deemed, quote, appropriated, and thus can be spent as HART pleases, or needs more council oversight. In any case, please remove the use of our property taxes from this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Questions for Councilmember Mitchell?
Thank you, Pearl, for testifying, but let me just make an analysis of that $164 million from general fund. I think if you look at the bill, when we collect money from the collection of 10% GED tax from the state, we put that in the general fund, and then later on transfer it to transit fund. So if you look, it says less inter-fund transfer, same amount, net amount is zero. So practically, that's the explanation that maybe the general fund is practically coming from 9%, just to enlighten you. But
Then where does the transit fund come from?
well, 0.5% GET, when they transfer it to the city, they put that first in the general fund. Then from there, they transfer it from general fund to the inter-fund, so that's zero.
So you are saying that we are not,
Practically, we might not, based on this bill, we might not be using real property tax. So
You're
the general
saying-
fund they're talking about, that may not be real property tax. And that's why if you look at the net amount is zero. So to a point, it seems that that's the case, but my reading is not. And I have a lot of concerns about how we spend money too, but just for you to understand that those are the things that happen when we collect the 0.5% GET, when they transfer it to us, go general fund, from general fund, we transfer it, things like that. So hopefully there's none from the real property tax to be used, because if there is, I will object.
you put hopefully there. Is it from our property taxes or from the GET surcharge?
I will call the department to be sure that we know exactly what this amount is.
Thank you very much.